All right.
Coach, time to watch a tape. What you just think?
Well, very pleased with the running game especially. We had some things going into the game against UTEP that we thought we had to do. But by the way, they loaded the box. They played a lot of man-free. It's very similar to Florida A&M 2 weeks ago. We knew what we were going to expect. The kids did a great job of executing the plan that we had set up to exploit them. And the perimeter run game with a little bit more quarterback run, getting Lindsey and Victor Mark involved in some of the run game, that we could handle all their hats. So it was good to see them execute what we had asked them to do. We want to be better in the pass game against some of those one-on-ones, because if you can add that to the mixture, it's awfully hard to defend you that way. So we got to get better at beating some man coverage, and with our crossing stuff and with some vertical throws, I don't think we're where we need to be on consistent downs there. But great effort. Execution was good. I thought we played with good intensity. Third quarter we came out a little flat. I thought the first series or two didn't get our motor started for a while, but the defense picked us up. They were playing very well in the second half, and then we got to turn over and kind of jumped on it again and went. But very pleased so far. But as you're as good as your last game, and in our mind right now you're 0-0, and we're getting ready to go into the second phase of the season.
Let's talk about the challenge that you faced this week against a tough Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah, it's funny because everybody looks at the stats, and as a coach, I'm not a big stat guy. Whether you're playing really well or whether you're playing really bad, I don't care. I just know what I see on tape. They've kind of evolved from week 1 to week 4. They've changed defensively. I think they tried something early in the year, didn't feel that it was the right thing for their personnel, and now they're set in what they want to be, I think. And we have a great advantage point because we saw Notre Dame's offense live and in color, and we all know that they're very, very talented. You take the long run out, they probably hold Notre Dame to about 300 yards of offense, 320 yards of offense. They took the best receiver out of the game. Basically, he caught 1 ball, 2 balls, something like that in the game. They're good coaches. They're very, very physical. They're giving up 105 yards rushing, and they gave up some early, like in their early conference or non-conference games. It's hard for people to understand this, but we're getting ready to play a very good defense. It's got a lot of confidence, and we're going to have our hands full. It's going to be a heck of a challenge for us offensively to do the things we want to do.
Todd, we talked a lot with Mark about his familiarity seeing Todd Graham's offenses in Conference USA. Does that help you at all? I mean, are you seeing similarities to what you saw defensively? Tulsa wasn't necessarily known for their defense in Conference USA.
It felt really good to when I turned on tape and he's not running the same defense.
Right. Yeah.
No, they've changed. They were a traditional 3-3 stack, West Virginia. He has a West Virginia background. We played them in the conference championship game and beat them one year, and then played them the next year at Tulsa. We're that almost 100% of the time. He's different. It's a different package. Now, what they're doing is not something we haven't seen before, but they've had a change of philosophy on defense.
What are the challenges, Todd, going on a short week like this from an offensive preparation standpoint?
It's a balance. You have to have your players fresh, and Coach Holtz does a great job of keeping that in the back of everybody's mind because he sees the big picture. But yet you still want to practice and get your timing and your fundamentals down, but you can't run them into the ground and beat them up because you have a short work week. So I think it's the biggest thing is the balance. And you can't do too much. You keep on going back to the game plan board and saying, no, we got to think, we got to, hesitation. You got to play fast, and you got to have a lot of confidence, especially on the road. You can't have mistakes, you can't have turnovers, you can't have minus yardage plays. So you have to stay ahead of the chains, and what you do best, do it. And if they can stop your best, then you have to have something to go back to. But we've got to stay focused on what we think our personnel does best, and make sure we can, block their things that they do differently, and go from there.
Will you draw from anything from the Notre Dame game, given that was the last competitive game you guys had?
Yeah, there's some similarities, especially in their personnel being big and physical up front. Their front four is very, very similar to Notre Dame's. Big size guys, very strong. They can lock you out and stop your inside run game. And we didn't get our run game really untracked other than BJ's runs at Notre Dame until the second half. So there's a lot of similarities there in the type of athlete we're facing from them. So we'll reflect back to that game plan a little bit, obviously, and look what was good and what wasn't, and try to build from there.
Todd, on those running plays, especially about the downfield blocking, especially by the receivers, and just what you saw 50 yards downfield.
We've had it now for 2 weeks. We made a big deal after the Ball State game. We had some really good plays against Ball State, but we didn't break tackles downfield. We didn't have great blocks triggering the long runs. And there's the last 2 weeks, the Florida A&M game, this game last week against UTEP. I mean, there's some great examples of effort and unselfish play from our players. And Victor Mark's great effort run, but there's some 4, 5, 6 guys that are, I think we had 6 guys inside the 10-yard line going in and scoring with him.
Right.
And so those things you celebrate and you praise kids, how much do you praise, how much do you criticize? You praise things like that because that's special, and you don't want to lose sight of that, and you want to make sure guys continue to play that way.
Is it a different type of focus now that it's Big East play?
Oh yeah, the players will be different mindset, just like they are for the opening game in Notre Dame. It's a national TV game. It's the first game of your conference. But the thing that you have to do, and we always talk about this, it's not about who you're playing. You know what? If you're 1-0 in the conference, you got to come back in 2 weeks and play Connecticut. If you're 0-1 in conference, you got to come back and beat Connecticut. It's important. We all know that. There's an extra focus on it. But at the end of the day, it's about us executing. Don't beat yourself, especially on the road. That's what we did a great job at Notre Dame. It wasn't always fluid against Notre Dame, but we didn't beat ourselves, and our defense made some opportunistic plays. And so I think this game will come down to a lot of situations. Third downs, red zone, turnovers. First and second down, as long as you're not screwing up, assignment-wise, it'll be a wash. Now who's going to execute in the situation of football, especially in your first conference game?
In saying those three situations, it seems like those are areas you guys have made steady improvements in. So the opening week, you got a little bit confident.
Oh yeah, we put time into it. We'll see a little bit tougher, front to run against in the red zone. So we got to make sure we have enough in there to be successful. But we have grown. We're not where we want to be by any means, but we have grown. So that's good to see us that we've improved with the time we put into it.
Todd, I think you're like 44% on third down.
I believe so now. Yeah.
Is there, without giving away any trade secrets, is there something you guys have done differently that lets you guys have the consistency and the success on third down?
I think probably just executing better. We've used some of the same plays we used against Notre Dame. I think we're blocking the pressures better. I think our lines getting more confident in their protections and our backs together. And I think BJ, the first half of the game, I thought he didn't get the right guy maybe a couple times or didn't set in the pocket long enough. But if you remember me saying the second half of Notre Dame, he made 2 or 3 pocket throws where we saw growth. And every week from there, it's gotten a little bit better. But there's no doubt you want to stay out of third and long where we have an either or. We can run or throw on you. And we've been in more manageable situations. It's not all 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. So that's helped us tremendously too.
Todd, what is it about this team that they've had so much success on the road dating back to last year and starting with I think it's the last 5 road games?
Yeah, we weren't here before, obviously, so I can't. I was asked that question a year ago. I think the way Coach prepares them, the way we travel, the way we do things, there's a feeling like we're getting on this thing together. It's us, and we need everybody to be on the same page. And I think the kids bought into it a year ago, and obviously the Notre Dame win was a resilient win with all the delays in the game against a good opponent. So I think they just bought into it. Why do kids get excited about black shoes versus white shoes? I don't know. It just they buy into it and you go. But the biggest thing is that Coach Holtz does a good job of selling his program, his system, so to speak, and they had success with it and they believe in it.
Do you try?
Could this game be any tougher than Notre Dame, given the 2 rain delays and then also the aura of Notre Dame? You're going to a familiar.
Well, I think it will be very similar. You can't, all the delays, you can't equate to, but I think you're going to play a very determined opponent like you are every opening game, Notre Dame. I think there's a lot of positions. The talent is very, very similar. I think Notre Dame's probably, a talented team also. I don't know if there's a big differential in talent, but it's very similar talent. So we're going to have a lot of the same issues we had, matchup-wise as we did Notre Dame. I think the difference is it's conference play. And nobody wants to get off to 0-1. Everyone wants to be 1-0, obviously, and you're going to get your best shot. Even if a team is 2-2, that's like I said, we're 4-0, but I don't even consider that right now because it's a blank slate, and that's how it feels like a game. It feels like I'm going to Notre Dame, and I don't know what I'm going to get because you don't know until you play that first game.
Last year, the offense started slow in the first couple Big East games. Do you guys use that as momentum or use it as motivation?
No, what we watched from last year's game is how we matched up against their personnel. How our kids blocked their people, how their corner, covered our people, that kind of thing. We were a different offense at that point. At this game, we were a little dinged up at some positions. We lost, receivers. We all knew the story there. So we're a different offense. So I don't think it's a motivational thing, but it's good to see how our players matched up, the ones that we have returning and the ones they have returning, because football is football. If you're blocking a 3 technique, you're blocking a 3 technique. I don't care what you're doing. If you're running a route on the corner, you're running a route. So that's what we're using it for, is a gauge to how we match up physically against them. Got it?
Thanks, Frank.